Hello guys, in this video I am going to teach you about Python identifiers and some reserved word in Python. For this you can use any mm, editor such as Atom and Visual Studio Code, but I am going with IDE which comes when you install Python. It is lightweight and easier to use, and it meets the requirement of our course, so I am going to use IDE. You can start ideally from here. Search bar, type ideally. Now I'm going to make a Python. So Python identifiers are the name given to any Python variables, such as if you want to describe a variable name, suppose x is equal to 10, so x is equal to 10, so x is a Python identifier. And when you define a function, let me create one Python file, let me save it, desktop, Python 1. Suppose when you define a function, define apple. So apple is an identifier. It is a name given to any Python variables or function or class name, or anything that we have to give name to identify it. So there are some rules that you need to follow to define a Python identifier. First thing is you can use alphabet from A to Z and capital A to Z, and and secondly you can also use number from 0 to 9. You cannot start Python identifier with numbers. Suppose you can't write 10 is equal to apple. This is invalid Python identifier. Suppose if you run it, Control S and run it, cannot assign to literal, so it says the identifier is wrong. So in place of that, if you start with any alphabet number, suppose A, save it and run it, it is a valid Python. Let me print it. It is a valid Python identifier, apple. And there are some symbols that you can't use as a Python identifiers, such as dollar, percentage, and ampersand, star, things like that. And you can start a Python identifier with underscore symbol. One underscore symbol means it is private identifier, which we will cover in later videos. And if there are two underscore in front of identifier name, that means it is strongly private. And you may have seen somewhere, if you are little bit familiar with Python, if you see double underscore and main, and it ends with double underscore. If there are any variables that start with double underscore and ends with double underscore, that means it is Python special variable by Python. And other than that, okay, let's check. A1 is equal to apple. Control S, F5, set print A1. So this is valid identifier. You can start identifier with any alphabet, A to Z, small a to Z, and capital A to Z, but you can't start it with numbers. For example, if we start identifier name with 1A, starting is number, then after that a is equal to, if a is equal to ball, and you print 1a, then invalid syntax because you can't use number in front of a identifier. That's its guide for Python identifier. In next video we're gonna learn about reserved words in Python.